where East meets West to explore the small daily rituals that shape how we age. It's a new day, and what better time to talk about how we started? Today's episode is about breakfast, that quiet, automatic moment when we reach for whatever comforts us, wakes us up, or gets us out the door. But if you're over 60, what you eat before 9 a.m. could quietly set the stage for inflammation, blood sugar crashes, and afternoon exhaustion. We're learning that the first meal of the day doesn't just affect your energy. It affects your brain, your hormones, even your long-term risk for diabetes. And yet, most people are starting their mornings with the worst possible choices. To help us unpack this, we're joined again by someone who has become a living guide to healthy aging. At over 100 years old, he's still on his feet, still inspiring audiences, still stepping into the studio with clarity and calm to share what really matters. Japan's oldest practicing physician, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara. Doctor, always a privilege.
Thank you, John. It's always a pleasure to be here, especially when we're talking about something as important and as misunderstood as breakfast. In Japan, we say the first meal is not just fuel, it's direction. It tells the body where the day is going. But in the West, breakfast has become a sugar trap, a hidden minefield of processed grains, artificial energy, and habits that quietly damage the metabolism. After 60, the body becomes more reactive. Insulin doesn't work as efficiently. The brain is more sensitive to blood sugar swings. A bad breakfast doesn't just leave you hungry. It can trigger inflammation, confusion, or even fatigue that lasts all day. The sad part is, many people think they're doing something healthy, but they've been misled by marketing. So today we will look at 4 common breakfast foods that quietly harm the body after 60, and 4 deeply nourishing alternatives, ones that I've seen time and again help restore clarity, energy, and balance.
Let's get into it then. Doctor, walk us through it. What's the first breakfast food that people over 60 should absolutely avoid?
Number 1 is something found on almost every breakfast table in the Western world: breakfast cereal. Especially the kind that comes in a colorful box, promises energy or heart health, and is fortified with vitamins. These cereals are often ultra-processed, stripped of natural fiber, and loaded with added sugars or artificial sweeteners. Even the ones that say whole grain or multigrain can cause rapid blood sugar spikes, followed by mid-morning crashes.
That's really interesting because I think a lot of people associate cereal with being safe, especially the ones labeled heart healthy or made with whole grains. Are you saying those are just as bad?
Yes, those labels are often misleading. A cereal can contain a pinch of whole grain, but still be mostly sugar and refined flour. It's like sprinkling oats on a donut. And for someone over 60 whose insulin sensitivity is already lower, that spike is more dangerous than they realize.
You mentioned fatigue and joint pain. Can a simple bowl of cereal really cause that?
Absolutely. A 2022 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed adults over 60 and found that those who regularly consumed processed cereals had a 38% higher risk of insulin resistance and early signs of metabolic syndrome. The body treats these cereals almost like candy, digesting them rapidly and releasing a wave of glucose into the bloodstream. That spike causes a crash, and for seniors, the crash shows up as brain fog, stiffness, irritability, or even dizziness. It's not just about sugar, it's about the inflammatory response that follows.
That's a powerful wake-up call. I have to admit, growing up, cereal felt like the easy, responsible choice. And now, So many older adults still think of it as the default, but clearly the science says otherwise. So let's keep going. What's another breakfast food you see seniors reaching for that's quietly making things worse?
The second one is toast with jam or jelly, especially when it's made from white bread or even so-called healthy wheat bread. This breakfast is a double hit: refined carbohydrates from the bread and a fast-acting sugar bomb from the jam. It may feel light, even virtuous, but it's one of the worst combinations for blood sugar control. The bread is often stripped of the fiber, which means it breaks down quickly and turns to glucose. The jam adds fructose and high glycemic fruit sugars, often mixed with corn syrup or preservatives. The result? A sharp insulin spike followed by a crash. And for someone over 60, that crash doesn't just cause hunger. It affects memory, energy, mood, and even balance.
I think a lot of people would be shocked to hear that, because toast and jam seem so harmless. It's quick, it's sweet, it feels like comfort food.
That's part of the danger. It's not dramatic, but it creates a cycle. Quick sugar, quick crash, then coffee or more carbs to recover. And that cycle, repeated every morning, trains the body to stay inflamed and insulin resistant. In fact, a 2019 Japanese study from Osaka University found that seniors who regularly consumed high glycemic breakfasts, including white toast and jam, had a 29% higher incidence of post-meal fatigue and poorer glycemic control, even among those without diagnosed diabetes.
That lines up with what I hear from listeners all the time. People say, "I don't understand why I feel so tired by 10 a.m." or "Why do I crash after breakfast?" And they never suspect the toast. But the way you explain it, it's not the portion size, it's the metabolic effect. Let's keep going. What's the third breakfast food that people over 60 should avoid?
Number 3 might surprise some people, especially those trying to be protein conscious. It's flavored yogurt cups, especially the ones labeled low fat or fruit on the bottom. They seem like a healthy start, but they are often loaded with added sugars, artificial flavors, and stabilizers. After 60, your gut becomes more sensitive, and many of these yogurts don't support it. They irritate it. The sugar content can be higher than a candy bar. And because they lack fat and fiber, they don't fill you up. They spike blood sugar, then leave you hungry an hour later.
So even though yogurt is often seen as a health food, most of what's in the fridge aisle isn't doing seniors any favors.
Exactly. It's about what's added. A plain, whole-fat yogurt can be wonderful, rich in probiotics, supportive for the gut, and good for satiety. But once you add sugar, fruit syrup, or thickeners, you've turned a healing food into a harmful one. And seniors don't need the crash or the gut disruption.
Makes total sense. What's the last breakfast mistake?
The fourth is fruit juice, especially orange juice. People still think of it as the healthy way to start the day, full of vitamin C. But after 60, that glass of juice is just a glass of liquid sugar. No fiber, no fat, no protein. It causes an instant blood sugar spike and then a crash that sets the tone for the entire day.
Even the kind that says 100% juice.
Yes, even that. Whole fruit is completely different. When you eat an orange, you get fiber, chewing, and slower absorption. Juice skips all that. For someone over 60, it's like hitting the bloodstream with a sugar injection.
That really hits home. I hear it all the time. People tell me, "Doc, I just don't understand why I feel drained by mid-morning." Or, "I eat something light for breakfast, but I still crash before lunch." And when you look at what's on their plate, cereal, toast with jam, a glass of juice, it starts to make sense. It's not that they're eating too much. It's that they're eating the wrong things to start their engine. I've even seen it in my own routine. There was a stretch a few years back where I was starting most days with just yogurt and fruit juice, thinking I was being healthy. But I was dragging through the mornings and I didn't connect the dots. I wasn't eating something sugary, or so I thought, but I was starting my day with a sugar surge. And once I changed that, brought in more protein, more healthy fat, the difference was dramatic. More energy, fewer cravings, and my mood was steadier too. So that makes me curious, doctor. Let's flip the script now. What's one breakfast food you truly recommend for people over 60? Something they can feel good about eating to start the day strong.
One of the simplest and most powerful choices is steel-cut oats. Not the instant kind, but the slow-cooking version. Steel-cut oats are a low-glycemic, whole grain that digests slowly, which helps regulate blood sugar and provides a steady release of energy throughout the morning. Unlike the highly processed packets that come flavored with sugar, steel-cut oats still have their fiber intact. That fiber feeds your gut bacteria, supports digestion, and helps prevent the blood sugar roller coaster. But it's also about how you prepare them. When you cook oats slowly and top them with things like cinnamon, flaxseed, walnuts, or a little plain yogurt, you turn a humble bowl into a deeply supportive meal.
That's interesting, because oats have been around forever. But I think we lost sight of how they're meant to be eaten. People want quick. They microwave them, add syrup, maybe even some fruit jam, and then wonder why they're hungry again by 9:30.
Exactly. After 60, your body needs food that works with your hormones, not against them. And steel-cut oats, especially when paired with protein or fat, do just that. They create satiety, they stabilize your system, and they can even support cholesterol balance and heart health. But you have to skip the shortcuts. No sugar packets, no fruit syrup. Keep it traditional, and your body will thank you.
That paints a clear picture. And honestly, it's comforting in a way, to know that something so simple, so familiar, can still be one of the smartest choices we make. No fancy supplements, no complicated routines, just real food, prepared with intention. Let's keep going then. What's the second breakfast food you recommend for people over 60?
The second is one that's been a staple in traditional Japanese breakfasts for centuries. Miso soup with tofu and vegetables. It might sound unusual in the West, but it's a powerful, balanced way to start the day. Miso is fermented, which supports the gut microbiome. Tofu provides the plant-based protein, and when you add seaweed, scallions, or mushrooms, you're getting trace minerals and antioxidants that nourish the body on a cellular level. It's warm, savory, and satisfying, without the insulin spike. And because it's rich in umami, it satisfies the appetite more deeply than sugary or carb-heavy meals. For seniors, this kind of breakfast calms the nervous system, supports digestion, and helps reduce inflammation throughout the day.
That's such a shift in thinking. In the West, we think breakfast has to be sweet, cereal, toast, muffins. But in Japan, it's often salty, warm, and broth-based. It's not just cultural, it's functional.
Exactly. Sweetness in the morning creates volatility. Salt, protein, and warmth create stability. After 60, the body needs grounding, not stimulation. That's why something like miso soup, even in small portions, can change the way you feel all day. It's not heavy, but it's deeply nourishing.
You know, I actually tried a traditional Japanese breakfast once while traveling. Miso soup, rice, a bit of fish, some pickled vegetables. And I remember feeling full, but in a clean way. Not sluggish, no crash afterward. It really challenged the way I thought about breakfast. And that brings me to the next question. What's the third breakfast food you recommend? Something people might actually keep in their fridge or pantry already.
The third is eggs, but prepared simply. boiled, poached, or gently scrambled in olive oil or grass-fed butter. Eggs are one of the most complete bioavailable sources of protein. They contain choline, which supports brain function, and lutein, which protects the eyes, both essential for healthy aging. But even more important, they stabilize blood sugar when paired with fiber or healthy fats. The key is avoiding processed pairings, like white toast, bacon, or sugary ketchup. When eaten with sauteed greens, a slice of avocado, or even a bit of rye or sprouted grain bread, eggs become a metabolic anchor. They help you stay full longer and reduce cravings for sugar and starch throughout the day.
That's really encouraging, because eggs are accessible. Almost everyone has them on hand. But the difference is how you build your plate around them.
Yes, after 60, it's not just the food, it's the context. A nutrient-dense food like eggs can either support your system or get dragged down by inflammatory pairings. Keep it clean, keep it balanced, and never underestimate the power of a warm, slow morning meal.
That's been such a helpful list so far. And what stands out to me is how every one of these foods supports stability. They don't spike you and crash you. They're grounding. And in a world full of quick fixes and fast fuel, that's rare and powerful. So let's bring it home. What's the final breakfast food you recommend for people over 60? The one that really completes the picture. Let's do it. What's your fourth and final breakfast recommendation, doctor? The one that really rounds things out.
The fourth is a Greek yogurt, but plain, unsweetened, and ideally organic. Greek yogurt is rich in protein, probiotics, and calcium. It supports muscle maintenance, gut health, and bone strength, all critical for people over 60. But here's the secret. When paired with fiber and healthy fat, it becomes a powerhouse for blood sugar regulation. Add a spoonful of chia seeds or ground flax, a few walnuts, and maybe a handful of berries. Not banana or dried fruit. That combination gives you protein, prebiotics, omega-3s, and just enough natural sweetness without causing a spike.
So many people think they're doing themselves a favor with fruit yogurt, but most of those are full of sugar or syrups. This keeps it real, keeps it clean.
Exactly. A 2020 study published in the journal Nutrients followed over 1,200 older adults and found that those who regularly consumed fermented dairy like Greek yogurt had better insulin sensitivity and lower inflammatory markers compared to those who skipped it or consumed sweetened dairy. The researchers concluded that high-protein, probiotic-rich breakfasts had a measurable effect on post-meal glucose control in adults over 60.
That's incredible. And again, simple, accessible. You don't need a fancy supplement, you just need to know how to build a smarter bowl.
And when you combine that with a morning routine that includes movement, sunlight, and hydration, you're setting your entire metabolic system on the right path for the day.
That really ties everything together. Because what I'm hearing across all four of these recommendations is that breakfast doesn't have to be complicated, but it does have to be intentional. After 60, every bite either helps your body stay balanced or pushes it into stress. It's not just about avoiding sugar. It's about starting your day in a way that supports the whole system, your brain, your gut, your hormones. And maybe most importantly, all of these foods are accessible. No expensive powders or extreme diets, just real, whole ingredients. That gives people power. Doctor, before we sign off, if you could leave listeners with one line, one takeaway to remember tomorrow morning, what would it be?
Start your morning like you'd train a guide dog, steady, calm, and with care. Because how you begin the day writes the story of your health.